Welcome to the Escape and Empower podcast. Escape from the corporate rat race to empowered franchise ownership. Are you ready to take control of your destiny, follow your dreams, and live life on your own terms? Join our hosts, Dave and Pete, for insights on how to break free from the corporate grind, ditch the 9-to-5, and step into empowered franchise ownership.
Welcome to the Escape and Power podcast. My name is Pete Giffel, and I'm here with my podcast partner, Dave Greenberg. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, Pete. How are you this morning?
Oh, I am pumped up. It is another great day, and it's another great day because you and I get to help executives take control of their destiny, live life on their own terms, build wealth by becoming empowered franchisees. And you know, our mission is to help people, and we always try to answer a question in our podcast. And so today, what I'm excited about is we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the job market in terms of this employer-employee relationship and how I believe there is a significant shift going on. And let's talk about it. And then more importantly is that as this shift is going on, what are things we can do as a senior level executive to get ahead of this or put leverage back on our side? Sound like a plan?
Sounds awesome, Pete, because the end of the story is about hiring yourself. And as you go through this, I think it's a great subject because it's so pertinent to today's conversation. I don't know where you're having the conversation, whether it's dinner, whether it's cocktail, whether it's an employee, spouse, colleague, however it is. This level of uncertainty combined with the economic opportunities that we're starting to sift through and see in the marketplace, it's a great subject.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, so we're going to talk about kind of the 5 reasons why senior level executives need to be concerned about the shift from that employee having the power in the hiring process to now the employer. The first reason is that this increased economic uncertainty is now kind of this disrupting things. Do we feel like there might be a recession, or is there going to be a trade war, and stuff like that? And I believe this is kind of now shifting the power to the employers because they can use this uncertainty to say, hey, listen, we're not so sure if we're going to do this, or it sets them up to make cuts. So I think the first one is this increased economic uncertainty is certainly a reason why the power shift from employees to employers.
Pete, I agree with this, but I was having a debate with Laurie yesterday, and we were going back. Okay, economic uncertainty combined with economic opportunity. And you and I have talked about a few things in the past that are creating uncertainty, and we kind of have shivers when we talk about the poor finance folks that are trying to do their forecasting in these uncertain times. If you look at the economic indicators, physical services, businesses, people saved a little money. There's money being spent in the marketplace.
Yep.
Companies have bought forward due to what's going on with our trade agreements, and it's turning into be a bit of a conundrum because I agree with your economic uncertainty, but I see it more in the C-suite of the CFO. And how are they going to maintain guidance? How are they going to take those cost-cutting measures and restructurings to create some efficiencies and hold on to their margins and returns?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, I think the second big reason is this downsizing, this streamlining, right? You see companies restructuring to try to get ahead of all this kind of stuff. And when we talk about restructuring in most cases means less employees, right? I mean, think of like GE, IBM, HP. They're all engaged in large rescale or restructuring operations, right? To reduce the number of employees, relying more on AI and things like that. So this is significant, this downsizing and streamlining.
Right. And, you just think of the recent announcements at Microsoft, Seattle, 9,000 positions. I don't know where they all are. We'll find out before too long, but it's just whether you're talking about the big players like HP or IBM or other large scale companies or even the small ones, the restructurings are coming your way. And, Pete, I was having conversations, as you do, with candidates all the time, the people that are in transition, facing transition, anticipating transition. And the one thing when you look at this, you can't say it's not going to happen to me. And in our position of helping people, one of the challenges and one of the things I talk to candidates is keep an eye on your runway, right? Because you can't enjoy things until your runway's gone. Take a break, clear your head, go fishing, play golf, but focus on the runway, because unless your balance sheet is so strong and you're not worried about it, fantastic. But think about that as you approach, am I going to bang my head against the wall and find another W-2 job? Or am I going to think about hiring myself?
Yeah, right. And you take away the leverage, right? If you decide to hire yourself, you are now not dependent on an employer for your income, right? So that takes back the thing. And I see that now with this rise of kind of that gig and remote work, you can argue, is remote work good or bad? You see a lot of companies calling people back, but it does allow companies with this remote work to hire from a broader pool, right? The competition gets bigger because now I'm not competing with people that want to move to Minneapolis for that job. I'm competing with anybody that can get online and have that position.
And you start thinking about those positions that are affected by the gig remote work. I just thinking of my daughter and my son-in-law. He's a first assist and he's the third and fourth hand to the surgeon in the operating room, and he's worked hard to get there. AI is not going to stitch up the patient or help the surgeon get through it. But then, I think of my daughter who's an architect, she's starting to see AI creep into her space. Yep. So, how you think about the type of work that you want to do, the services and products that you want to be involved in. And we used to say this whole remote work was great, and then we started having conversations about, okay, what's Amazon proof and now what's AI proof, and things are changing. And the question is, do you want to change or do you want to be changed as you work through this?
Yeah, absolutely, right? If you don't start planning for this, because again, a lot of power is going back to the employers, and if you don't protect yourself, you can get caught up into these downsizings and stuff like that. And I do believe the fourth reason why employers have more power is that there's just less loyalty, right? On both sides. You and I, we started with Ford, we had great careers, but we kind of saw that loyalty to employees disintegrated while we were there, right? It used to be kind of a contract, right? You started with Ford, you were going to retire with Ford. They appreciated longevity or loyalty. And companies no longer really care about loyalty, being loyal or employee loyalty.
It was wonderful. And you always thought, I got 20 years in this place. I've done great on my performance reviews. My leadership behaviors are at the top of the track. I'm delivering on results. Well, thank you very much. You're only as good as yesterday, right? And so today's a new day. And the reality is you can put it in, you can stay loyal. I get it. It's comfortable. We'll have the debate whether hiring yourself or a W-2 job is more secure and what you have more control over all day long. But, think about those alternatives, because I was blindly loyal and I love Ford, as you know, and, we would jump off the deep end for them to make our goals or make things happen. But at some point in time, you got to take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's the thing. And if you're just trying to, for lack of better terms, make it to retirement, right? Unfortunately, in today's world, you may want to retire with that company, but you're going to most likely get pushed out before you're ready. I mean, what is this at? 50% of 50-plus-year-old corporate executives get pushed into retirement before they're ready. That's very telling. So, and that in part is loyalty. I think the fifth reason why employers got the upper hand on employees right now, this whole AI and automation, right? Reducing the numbers of levels of management. And we've talked about this before, we'll talk about it more, is that you're seeing that if you have a legal department, you don't need 5 employees. You need just a couple, right? If you a marketing person creating content, you don't need 5 people. You only need a couple, right? It's gonna basically collapse the layers of management. And then if they need less managers, executives, bottom line is that gives the employers more power over this whole relationship.
100%. The interesting thing is I was working with a CMO or former CMO, And she calls herself, rightly so, an AI forward CMO. But you start thinking of all the skill sets that you have. And if you were in charge of AI and efficiencies and look at your responsibilities and your duties, which one would you start putting AI into?
Yeah.
And that's what she shared with me. And she was thinking AI forward and saying, hey, the media planning, the marketing mix, the optimization, science behind it used to be combined with art, but AI is just all over it.
Well, even making executive decisions, right? Sure. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. All right. So, we've talked about a lot of reasons why the power has shifted from basically the employees to now the employer, right? For the reasons we talked about. You don't have to just sit there, right? There is a way in which, as a senior level executive, you need to start considering becoming an entrepreneur, right? So whether it's a full-time basis, part-time basis, you got to kind of start putting together a plan so that you are in control of your life. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And whether you're thinking about it or whether you're in transition, these things can be really scary. And for those that are listening, Pete and I have both been through it. The challenge is, let's pull up our big boy or big girl pants and face that and jump into it and talk to us. It's 15 minutes of your life to talk to Pete at hireyourself.com. That's where you can book a call with him, or go to empoweredfranchisee.com and book a call with me. And let's talk for 15 minutes. We've helped hundreds of people think this through. There's cost and time. You don't get time back, but just give us a call. We can figure out pretty quickly whether it makes sense to work together and start thinking about how you transition from someone controlling your destiny to being an entrepreneur and controlling your own.
Yeah, let's talk about some of the benefits, right? So you decide to leave the corporate world and invest in yourself, become an entrepreneur. What would be some of the reasons? And I think that there's probably 6 great reasons why you should consider protecting yourself by becoming an entrepreneur.
Pete, I mentioned it. Yeah. And I think you talk about this a lot. My favorite subject is ageism, right? You got to stare it in the face and realize it's going to hit you between the eyes. But you talk about controlling your own destiny by hiring yourself, and this greater control and this income that you can really generate by driving your own success is the number one reason why I think you should think about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, right. You are in control of your career. Nobody's going to say we're done with you, right? You're in control of your career. And most importantly, you're in control of your income. Nobody can take away your income. Right? And this is really important. And I think as we talk about this idea of taking back the power in this whole process, right, is leveraging those great skills that you learned in the corporate world. You and I, we learned a ton of business acumen and leadership skills at Ford, right? And when we can have those skills and we can go then invest in our own business, build our own business, those skills are very relevant and very helpful as we look at becoming an entrepreneur.
Pete, we talk to successful people all day long. And, I often say, okay, what have you really failed at? And, the list is short. All right, what has really helped you build your capabilities and your skill set, as you mentioned, into what you're on today? And let's talk about the natural ones. I love to develop people, natural conversation.
Yeah.
I love to develop teams, natural conversation. Are you a builder? Are you a sustainer? So all these things, I love P&Ls. No, I don't like admin. Great, we'll outsource that. I like sales. I don't like sales. Okay, if you didn't like something, what do? You go hire a really smart person to do what you're not good at or what you don't want to do. Those same thing applies. And the conversation you're creating about leveraging existing skills is just a simple inventory of how did you get where you are today? I'm assuming we're not talking a dividend babies here. They actually had to do something to succeed in the workspace. But how did you get there? And let's put those skill sets to work.
Yeah, building something of your own. And I think that is about, when we talk about wealth in America, real wealth is created by being entrepreneurs. If you want to have wealth, real wealth and financial independence, most really wealthy people, it comes from owning a business, right? It doesn't come from being a W-2 employee or executive. Yes, you can create a nice nest egg, but if you're really looking for that financial independence, it's going to come through being an entrepreneur. There's no question in my mind.
100%. Unless you have those true golden handcuffs. And most of the time we talk about, I'm building wealth at the company. It's bullshit. Okay, great. You have options, you have grants. How many times have we looked at our options and say they're underwater? Someday they'll be worth something. Let's keep working at it, right? And then you end, throwing them in the trash.
Right? You can build up a nice 401k. You might get some bonuses that you can bank a little bit or defer. But bottom line is that it's tough to become having the real wealth. And I mean, if you take a look at what percentage, look at the top people, the wealthiest people in the United States, it's because they're entrepreneurs. They've created, for rocker terms, value with their product or service. Right. Think of Amazon, Bezos, right? I mean, bottom line is he's created a real value proposition for customers. I agree or disagree with that, but the idea is that real entrepreneurs, independently wealthy people, it comes from doing their own gig. I think one of the great advantages of stepping up and becoming an entrepreneur is getting that flexibility, that work-life balance. And that was one of the biggest things for me, escaping the corporate world and becoming my own boss, is I was the captain of my calendar. Doesn't mean I work less. You know me, I love working 12 hours a day, right? And I work on Sundays. But the idea is it's on my terms. I don't have somebody telling me I'm going to move or I have to be somewhere on Monday or anything. I'm in control. And that is so important because life's short.
Right. And Pete, I know what you do on Fridays. You don't work and you go out on your boat. It's your thing. That's your happy place. You go out and get on the boat and get on the lake and clear your head. One of the silly things I do is I don't work until 1 o'clock. I don't book anything until 1 o'clock on Mondays. Why? Because I used to do the errand run on Saturdays. You know what I do now? I play tennis. I enjoy myself on Saturdays. And the most important thing, and most people, is Sunday night scaries, right? They're gone, right? Because I don't have to answer to anyone. And I know I have that time Monday morning to actually, I'm pretty good at, compartmentalizing. And I say, yeah, it's all coming in. I got time blocked on Monday. We're going to knock it out.
Yep.
So it's a way of talking about the flexibility and work-life balance. I look at Bezos, that guy's got work-life balance on that boat.
Yeah, he's definitely got work-life balance. Yeah. It took a hell of a long time, right? And I know he probably his butt off to get where he's at. And kudos to him from that standpoint. But the idea is that if you have freedom in regards to time, and again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not working, it's just you have it on your terms. And I think it's also, as we talk about being an entrepreneur, is that you can make impactful decisions without the bureaucracy. And you and I have had our fair share of bureaucracy, right? You know what the right thing is to do, but it gets kind of caught up and you can't make those decisions. As an entrepreneur, you can make those decisions without a lot of bureaucracy that I think can be helpful or can make an impact.
Absolutely 100%. We all know that revenue fixes most problems, right? And if you need to go do something to generate revenue, guess what? You get up and go and do it. And those decisions, whether you hire, whether you fire, whether you turn left, whether you turn right, you're a smart person. You're always going to, source the knowledge in your organization or talk to the other franchisees that are doing great things and you want to do same things. But at the end of the day, you can throw that all in the mix and say, okay, this is what we're doing and this is where we're going.
Right. And it's on you, right? But you're making the decision, go deliver, make it happen, make an impact, whatever it may be. Yeah. And I think another reason why you want to look at being an entrepreneur is that there's security through diversification, right? When we're a corporate executive, a lot of times our sole income, everything is tied to that job, right? And if you get downsized, you're kind of caught flat-footed. If you're a business owner, bottom line is that nobody's going to lay you off, but you can diversify your assets, your income with having multiple businesses or multiple different revenue sources.
100%. Being single-threaded is hard. And, when you and I grew up, at least my experience is not everyone had income properties. The side hustle was something that, you really shied away of, and you couldn't do, because we woke up at 5:30 and then we were in the office at 7 and we left at 7. So when the heck can you take time out of your day? And, we were both blessed with spouses that ran the household and ran the kids while we did own led stuff at work. So, think about diversification so you don't get caught in that trap. And I think they say most millionaires, or whatever you call people with a lot of money these days, have 7 income streams.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I mean, and just think about this idea that you have the ability to pivot, right? So if something happens, you can kind of go another direction if you have multiple different revenue streams where you're not kind of dependent on that.
Right.
And so when we really think about this, the world is changing. The power of we had a period of time where employees had the power when it came to the hiring relationship and all that kind of stuff. That has now shifted because of the 6 reasons we've talked about, where employers have the upper hand. And if you're a senior level executive, get going. You better start looking at options to put yourself in a position where you have more power over your future. And being an entrepreneur, for the reasons we talked about today, is a great way to do it. Now, you can do different forms of entrepreneurs. You can start a real estate portfolio. You can buy an existing business. You can invest in a franchise. And you and I, passion is to help executives, because we've been there before, where you get kind of caught up into that company and you don't realize that you're exposed. And so you help people become empowered franchisees, right? And this whole idea is that people want to take control of their destiny, live life on their terms, and build wealth. And so we're here for you. You can either go to the Empowered Franchisee and talk to Dave, or go to Hire Yourself and talk to me. It's a 15-minute conversation, but start working on it now. You don't want to get caught flat-footed.
100%. And take action before your runway runs out, because then all of a sudden you're not making decisions for the right reasons. You're in survival and you don't want to be there. So thanks, Pete. These are great subjects today. I think, I'm looking forward to talking to our listeners and thinking about how we can help them through their transitions.
Yeah, David, I thought what we'd do is that, we kind of bring up AI in these conversations. AI is impacting a lot of things. So I think we should probably do a special episode on AI, the impact that it is having on executives and employees, right? So I think that might be a good thing. So if you like our content, I encourage you to subscribe, follow us. We are here for you to help you kind of explore what's next.
Absolutely, Pete. I look forward to those future conversations. Let's keep it going.
Thanks for tuning in to the Escape and Empower podcast. We hope today's discussion has inspired you to consider franchise ownership as a path to living life on your own terms. Start your journey towards financial freedom and flexibility. Connect with Dave at empoweredfranchisee.com or Pete at hireyourself.com. Until next time.